Welcome to the Discover Alaska Lecture Series, brought to you by UAF Summer Sessions and Lifelong Learning. My name is Althea St. Martin, and I'm your host for this summer's series. Discover Alaska is in its 15th season, and previously was held on the UAF campus. The COVID-19 pandemic and social distancing guidelines required that we rethink the format for the series this summer. We are delighted that KUAC has agreed to support this new format as a weekly TV broadcast. Thank you, KUAC. Each Wednesday night over the course of the summer, KUAC will air a talk by a local community member on a range of Alaskan topics. We're grateful to our speakers who were incredibly flexible to adjust to this new format, and we appreciate the time they are donating to help us all learn more about our great state. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, I wanted to let you know that you can view the talks online later by going to UAF Summer Sessions website at uaf.edu/summer/events. I'm delighted to introduce tonight's speaker, Scott McCrea, who is the Director of Tourism with Explore Fairbanks. He will discuss tourism in a time of COVID-19, a very timely and important topic. From America's Midwest to Beijing, Alaska has been a dream destination for more than 2.25 million visitors every year. This lecture will take you behind the scenes of the local year-round visitor industry to learn about the effects of COVID-19. Mr. McCrea is a lifelong Alaskan and a 33-year resident of Fairbanks. He has been the Director of Tourism for Explore Fairbanks for 6 years. In his capacity, he works to promote interior Alaska to domestic and international travel agents and tour operators.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Scott McCrea. I'm Director of Tourism for Explore Fairbanks, and welcome to the UAF Summer Sessions Discover Alaska Lecture Series. And the topic today is tourism in the time of COVID-19. Now, when the great team at Summer Sessions approached me back in December of 2019 about being a presenter for the Discover Alaska Lecture Series, the focus on the time was we're going to talk about something really positive about the tourism industry here in Fairbanks in interior Alaska, where visitors come from, what are they doing while they're here, how do we explore Fairbanks, get them here, and then 2020 happened. And so like many things, everything in life, from the tourism industry to our day-to-day life, when 2020 happened, things changed dramatically. So my topic has changed a bit since the December 2019 topic we had originally landed on. And of course, the venue has changed. We were supposed to be presenting this to you up at the UAF campus in person. Of course, those things have changed as well. So a big shout out to Summer Sessions for keeping this lecture series going within a different time. They've always done a great job over the years of linking the Fairbanks community to the university during the summertime. So looking forward to presenting today. I'm presenting this on June 11th, 2020, and I say that because by the time this airs, some of the things I've talked about might have changed, because the thing with the COVID-19, and especially as it relates to tourism, is something changes on a daily basis. We learn of a new cruise ship cancellation on a daily basis, a new change in an airline. So just keep in mind, this is as current as 10 a.m. on June 11th. When this airs, there might have been some new things in place. So for the program today, I'm going to give an overview of Explore Fairbanks, what we do as a destination marketing organization, and I want to shed some light on the original topic of who our visitors are and how we bring them here. And then we'll talk about the emergence of COVID-19 and how it's impacted the tourism industry. What is the current situation? What are some of the things we've done to respond to the pandemic in terms of marketing Fairbanks as a visitor destination? And what do we see looking ahead as far as the future of the important tourism industry here in Fairbanks and Alaska and really across the country? So a little bit about Explore Fairbanks. For those of you who have been around Fairbanks for a while, you might recall the Fairbanks Convention and Visitors Bureau. That's us, just with a different name. So over the last decade or so, a lot of convention and visitor bureaus have moved away from the CVB title because, one, it's a handful to say, it's a bit of a mouthful, and moving towards more kind of action-oriented. So we are Explore Fairbanks. Down south, we have Visit Anchorage, and further south, we have Travel Juneau. And as a destination marketing organization, I think The best way to really summarize what it is that we do is from the very first line in our vision statement, which is we sell Fairbanks. That's what we do, plain and simple. We have 5 different departments here. We have our administration department, which is led by our president and CEO, Deb Hickok, who reports to a board of directors. We have a meetings and conventions department, which they do just as the name implies. They work on bringing meetings and conventions here to Fairbanks in interior Alaska. The tourism department that I oversee, our focus is on travel trade. So we reach out to travel agents and tour operators to get them to create itineraries and send their clients here to Fairbanks. Our communications department oversees all of our different communication efforts, from electronic to print publications to social media to media outreach. And then we have our partnership and visitor services. So we are a membership organization. Explore Fairbanks represents about 400 plus tourism partners, mostly focused here in interior Alaska, but across the state, and ranging from very small mom and pop style businesses to the bigger tour companies. And we couldn't do what we do to market Fairbanks without them. Our partners are the ones who are supplying the products, the tours, the attractions, the events that bring people to Fairbanks on a year-round basis. So we have our partnership department as well as visitor services. So not only do we work on bringing visitors here, but we like to take care of them once they're here. So the picture there, that's our beautiful Morris Thompson Cultural and Visitors Center, where we're located, and we share with some other partners as well. So when visitors do arrive to Fairbanks, our very knowledgeable visitor services staff works on helping them learn what they can see and do while they're here. Our funding sources, we have 2 different ones. The main one, about 80%, comes from hotel, motel, bed tax that we collect from within the Fairbanks North Star boroughs. So the hotels within the borough, as well as the city of Fairbanks and city of North Pole. That's important to know when I talk about our current situation and where our current funding lies. And then partnership revenue. So those members who are part of Explore Fairbanks do pay membership dues. So that's us. Now let's talk about who are our visitors. Who are the different visitors who come to experience Fairbanks, to come experience interior Alaska? And it's such a diverse mixture of visitors, and they are coming on a year-round basis. I'll talk about that in just a minute. And they're coming for a variety of reasons. They could be coming as part of an overall Alaska cruise land tour package, and Fairbanks is just one of the stops within their itinerary. They could be coming specifically to come to Fairbanks, and maybe even specifically for one reason. The Northern Lights, which has really grown in popularity. That might be their primary reason for coming to Fairbanks, to see the Northern Lights. Or this time of year, coming to enjoy the Midnight Sun events. So some more kind of specific examples of who these visitors are. So I mentioned the cruise visitors. About 41% of visitors who come to Fairbanks in the summertime are coming by way of cruise land tour packages. So a real quick Alaska Cruise 101, you have 2 different types of cruises that come to Alaska. You have the round trip inside passage cruises that just go through Southeast Alaska, leaving from and coming back to Seattle. And then you have the cross Gulf Alaska cruises. Those are the cruises that go up through the inside passage, cross over the Gulf of Alaska, and go to Whittier or Seward. Those passengers can then add on a land tour package that follows what we refer to as the rail belt itinerary, going up from Seward or Whittier, Anchorage, Denali, and Fairbanks. They're definitely an important part of our summer season. Some people don't want to be confined to a group tour, a package tour, so a lot of people come up independently. Highway travelers this time of year in the summer, RVs coming through Canada, up from the lower 48, or people who fly into Fairbanks and rent an RV or rent a car and explore the road system on their own. Visiting friends and relatives. So you think when you've got Aunt Becky from Minnesota or Uncle Joe from Florida comes up to stay with you for a week during the summer or during the winter, that's a visitor. That's someone who's coming to visit our community and enjoy local activities and tours. The corporate convention travelers, I'm meeting meetings and conventions, people who come here to Fairbanks on business, they are visitors. And the last topic, international visitors. One of the things that we're very fortunate to be here in Fairbanks is we are a popular destination for different international markets. And we have some core international markets for both Fairbanks and the state of Alaska that for many years have been Japan, Australia, New Zealand, German-speaking Europe, the UK, and Taiwan. And those markets have increased over the years to include, probably the biggest one the last few years is the China market from mainland China. So visitors come in all shapes and sizes, and they come here for all different types of experiences. And as I said, we're very fortunate to be a year-round destination, so we do see visitors beyond this summer season. So how do we get them here? Well, just the fact that we're here, that Fairbanks is here, isn't enough. We do have a pretty robust mix of research-driven strategies and tactics that we utilize to encourage visitors to come to our region that range from direct mail publications of our various visitor guides, connecting to potential visitors on social media, advertising, public relations media. That's a huge one. If we get a story written about Fairbanks as a great place to see the Northern Lights in the New York Times or Travel and Leisure, that's a huge ability to draw people to our region. The travel trade outreach, like I said, that's where I work in, is reaching out and marketing Fairbanks to travel agents and tour operators. And then our visitor services, they're taking phone calls and emails from visitors around the world. So a lot of different ways, and really to emphasize, it's really about using research so we know which markets are the most important ones to reach out to that are going to send visitors our way. And we are a year-round destination. So a lot of people will think, and especially in some of the other parts of Alaska, down southeast Alaska, which pretty much relies heavily, almost 100% on the summer cruise season. A lot of people think, well, summer's here, the tourism season is well underway. It's year-round here in Fairbanks. We are very fortunate, and a lot of it has to do with it's the Northern Lights that we really worked hard on marketing Fairbanks as a Northern Lights destination. So while summer, like the rest of Alaska, is our peak season, our biggest growth has been in that winter season. February and March are the peak months. March is almost like June here for some of our local hotel properties and tour companies. So we see it spread out over the course of a year. Some communities, especially the Southeast Alaska ones, like I mentioned, they're really relying heavily on that May to September timeframe of when the cruises are coming. So we're always promoting either season. So when people come here in the summertime, we be sure to talk to them about winter. Come back and try us in winter. Winter visitors promoting summer to them. So tourism as an economic engine. So it's a very important part of our local economy and for the entire state. Alaska's more than 2.25 million visitors spend more than $2 billion in our state, supporting communities and local businesses. Here in Fairbanks, the total direct and indirect economic impact of the visitor industry is estimated to be of nearly $522 million. We are second in a list of primary economic clusters in the Fairbanks North Star Borough. So in terms of jobs, number one is military, number two is the tourism and hospitality industry. And more than that, besides the economic engine, tourism helps create, contributes to the quality of life for Fairbanks. You think of some of the different restaurants you enjoy, or going to Pioneer Park with your family. Those things exist because we have a robust tourism industry to bring those things here to our community, not just for visitors to enjoy, but for locals as well. And we'll be talking about our Explore Local campaign here momentarily. So I want to show you this video here. This does a really good job of really highlighting that important role that tourism plays as an economic engine. So enjoy.
Visitors love Fairbanks. The Fairbanks region has grown into a popular year-round destination for guests from the USA and abroad. With the midnight sun and aurora, quality attractions, robust activities, and our Golden Heart hospitality, we're rocking it. Fairbanks loves tourism too. Local tourism businesses collectively make the tourism industry the second largest employer in our economy. Tourism produces seasonal positions and year-round careers. Tourism generates 7,000 jobs in the interior, adding $255 million of labor income into our communities. Each year, visitors infuse more than $200 million in direct spending into our local economy, injecting more than $500 million in direct and indirect spending combined. The summer season has been the backbone of Alaska's tourism industry. But in the Fairbanks region, the growth has been in winter tourism season. 45% of direct visitor spending now happens in winter when a guest stays longer and spends more. Hotel and motel bed tax collections in the Fairbanks North Star Borough are steadily rising and breaking records. Local tourism businesses also pay their fair share of property taxes. Of the top 50 payers in the borough, 20% are hotels. Tourism is entrepreneurial. Innovative local businesses are crafting new and exciting activities to make our guests' visits unforgettable. As the Fairbanks tourism industry becomes more robust, the quality of life in our communities improves. Future investments in marketing and developing Fairbanks as a visitor destination pave the way to make our local economy stronger and our lives here better. Tourism works for Fairbanks all year long.
So one of the things the video highlights is how the visitor industry, the tourism industry, has been growing over the last 5 years. So historically, 2009, that was the big recession. Tourism took a huge decline, and it took some time to rebuild that. And over the last few years, we've been seeing record numbers of visitors coming to Alaska, coming to Fairbanks. And we were so optimistic and positive about 2020. Everything, the stars were in alignment for this to be another great year. In fact, we started off great. January and February, the numbers. So one of the different things we track in terms of measuring visitor industry success is arrivals to the Fairbanks International Airport. So January and February, the numbers were 5% over January and February of last year. Looking at the cruise industry, this was going to be another record year for cruises. The estimate was going to be that 1.4 million visitors were going to be coming to Alaska by way of cruise ship. I talked about international markets. We've seen our international markets diversify beyond those main ones that I talked about to include other ones such as Southeast Asia, Latin America, India have been ones that have been on the growth over the last few years. And definitely talking about, the Aurora destination, that's a huge part. If you pick up any piece of marketing publication from Explore Fairbanks, we're probably going to put the Northern Lights on it because that's such a huge bucket list for so many people. And we've really worked hard on the messaging to explain why Fairbanks and interior Alaska, and even going north above the Arctic Circle, is one of the best places in the world to come and see the Northern Lights. And those efforts have been playing off quite well. And then a growth in new tourism products. You look around Fairbanks, new small businesses that have started up to cater to the year-round visitor industry, new dog mushing companies, new Aurora tours, new things that we enjoy like a new brewery, a new distillery, new food trucks, lots of little things that have been growing within the economic sector and creating jobs and creating things for people to enjoy. So 2020 was going to be pretty darn good, and then this happened.
早上就有44例吧，有11例重症，没有这么紧张。
哦，
不像
那
SARS啊，相当于传染性没有相当于紧张。
那您还是对政府的政策比较放心的是吧？
哎。
Who would have thought during that initial outbreak there in Wuhan at the end of 2019, the first couple of days of 2020, that outbreak would lead to what we face now on a global level. It's astronomical to think about how much has changed and in such a short amount of time. That was 6 months ago. And there's some days where the pre-COVID days seem like so long ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. We were tracking the situation pretty early on because our initial concern as we looked at impact on the visitor industry was on visitation from mainland China during the Lunar New Year. So I mentioned China is one of our main international markets. For those who live in mainland China, one of the peak times of year that they travel is during the Chinese New Year, or Lunar New Year. So when the outbreak started growing in Wuhan and other areas of China, our concern was that we would have a loss of some of the group tours coming out of that market during that short window, the 2-week window that kind of defines the Chinese New Year. And some of our tour companies who cater to the China market were reporting a loss in business. So it was a concern. It wasn't necessarily a huge red flag because though we do rely on the China market is one of our markets that come here in the wintertime, it's by no means the main one. In fact, about 80% of our visitors in the wintertime come from the U.S. So there was some concern, and then the situation began escalating rapidly, going to the first case in the U.S. on January 20th was the first case down in Washington, and then spreading to other parts of the globe, travel bans being implemented, the first case in Alaska on March 12th. On March 13th, the U.S. declares a national emergency. And as I said in the beginning, things were just changing on a daily basis for the industry. And as far as the immediate impact, so looking at the first quarter, January through March, as far as the impact on the visitor industry, like I said, January and February was off to a good start. We did have a good 2 solid months of winter visitation during January and February. March has traditionally always been our peak month. It's a pretty busy time of year here. But by early March, the situation had been growing and there were things going into effect that were restricting travel. The Center for Disease Control putting out different guidelines, the state of Alaska issuing mandates. So within that first 2 weeks of March, we started seeing our winter season shut down a little earlier than normal. So the World Ice Art Championships, a great event that people enjoy, normally goes to the end of March. It stopped in early March. Local businesses from Chena Hot Springs to the Alaska Railroad, which offers a winter train service from Anchorage and Denali to Fairbanks, they stopped their service. So the winter season stopped a little earlier than it normally does. And then we started seeing, as far as things happening outside that were impacting us. So within my job, part of what I do is I typically do a lot of travel, going to trade shows, going to sales missions, going to conferences to meet with travel agents and tour operators to promote Fairbanks to them. Those shows and conferences ended up being postponed or canceled altogether because certainly when the last thing, what happened during the pandemic is getting a bunch of people in a huge, convention center, and that's true still now in June. Local meetings and conferences that our meetings and conventions department had done such a good job of bringing here, they started canceling too. And then late March, I think, was around the time frame that we started looking ahead with a great deal of concern to summer and started seeing some things take place. So airlines, for example, by that time were greatly, reducing or suspending their flights. I mean, you look at impact on the aviation industry, it's just, it's pretty, phenomenal what has happened to them. Cruise ships started delaying the season. So typically our cruise season in Alaska runs and it's early May to late September. They started postponing, not canceling within March, postponing their cruises until July. And a few different factors to that, not just the pandemic itself, but the kind of the reaction from government to the pandemic. So the Center for Disease Control had a 30-day ban on all cruises. So, and initially these bans that started to come out early on, they were set with like a 30-day window. He said, we have a 30-day ban on cruise ships. Canada issued a ban on cruise ships entering Canadian ports until the month of July. That's a really significant one because any cruise that's coming to Alaska makes a stop through Canada. And then the Port of Seattle, another example, they had delayed the start of the season too. So the cruise industry saw that and said, okay, we need to wait and we'll look ahead to July. And then some of our local operators were talking about, we're getting cancellations from groups. Hotels were getting cancellations from people coming this summer because people had that concern, and rightfully so, about things being okay by this summer time frame to come. The situation as of June 11th, again, this is airing at a later date, so we might have a different situation. So where are we now? Well, the cruise season is pretty much, it's non-existent at this point. That ban that I talked about with Canada of cruise ships entering Canadian ports, they extended that until October. So that essentially wipes out the entire cruise season. And as I stand here today, the only major cruise company that is still planning, or at least they show on their website, they're coming to Alaska, is Norwegian Cruise Lines, coming during the month of August. But we have gone from, with that calculating in, we've gone from what was estimated to be 1.4 million visitors coming to Alaska on cruise ship to about 300,000. We have a situation too with those RV traffics. And the nice thing about RVs is when you look at different ways that people are comfortable with traveling, getting in an RV with your family members or with what we call a bubble, a close bubble of friends, is something that people are comfortable traveling. And like I said, we do get a lot of highway traffic in the summertime. However, there is a ban, also with Canada. The U.S.-Canadian border is currently closed until June 21st, and there is some strong speculation that that ban will be extended. So that takes care of the highway traffic. From air service, among the many things we were going to celebrate this summer was American Airlines was going to be entering the Fairbanks market for the first time with direct flights from Dallas, Fort Worth, and from Chicago. And they were one of the first ones to cancel their service, even back in March. As it stands now, when you look at what are my options for flying into Fairbanks, the only lower 48 options that are there right now are from Seattle with both Alaska Airlines and with Delta Airlines, who both have daily service from Seattle. In typical summer months, we have Delta coming from Minneapolis to Fairbanks. We would have United Airlines, Denver and Chicago to Fairbanks. Those have all gone away. And the number of flights has been reduced quite dramatically as far as what type of traffic we're seeing there at the Fairbanks International Airport. In looking at overall stats, I think, so the last stats that I saw was during the month of April, we had a 90% decline in airport arrivals and departures from April of 2019. Another air service that we lost too is I talked about our international markets. This was going to be our 20th anniversary of celebrating Condor Airlines with their direct flights from Frankfurt to Fairbanks, and they can go through Anchorage. We're excited about that. The German-speaking Europe market has been a really strong one for us for many years, and we're excited to celebrate that anniversary with Condor, but they have canceled that service as well. And in fact, the only North America destinations Condor has is to Seattle and to Toronto. And there's also a travel ban within German too. So these things that are happening, it's a combination of the concern over the pandemic itself and the mixture of the government reaction and the bans they're putting into them. And the other one then is the new travel mandates from the state of Alaska that have been in effect for about 2 weeks now. So when the pandemic started growing, the state of Alaska put a mandate in place requiring anyone coming from outside Alaska into Alaska, they had to quarantine for 2 weeks. That has been semi-lifted and it has been modified, and now visitors who are coming to Alaska from outside have to have taken a COVID-19 test and tested negative to it 72 hours prior to their departure. There's an option, also one for 5 days of testing within 5 days. If they arrive here in Alaska and they don't have their test, they can test at the airport too. There is a lot of different layers to this new mandate, so I'm going to leave it at that. And the mandate might change, but it's one of the Alaska and Hawaii have the strictest travel mandates in place, and understandably so, because we're off the road system. We're being connected to the rest of the U.S. You know, here in Alaska, We have places that have very limited healthcare capacity. And really what the state has been trying to do is find that delicate balance of opening up Alaska for business to visitors while maintaining the safety and the health of the people who live here. And it's not it's a tough balance to make. And we have heard, because of these mandates, a lot of groups, a lot of our tour companies have said we're having people cancel, for some of the bookings they did have scheduled for this summer are now canceling because of that situation. So definitely go to the State of Alaska website, alaska.gov, and their COVID-19 page. It's a great resource. ExploreFairbanks.com, our website, we have a COVID-19 webpage. So if you want to keep up on what these different mandates are, because with the travel mandate, it also does affect Alaskans who are flying to and from. So stay informed, stay up to date. Like I said, this is an update as of June 11th. So on a national level, the impact of the current pandemic on the travel industry is worse than two of the most significantly devastating times in America's history: September 11th and the Great Depression. This year, travel spending is expected to decline nationwide by $519 billion, representing $1.2 trillion in economic loss. And when you think about what makes up the travel and hospitality industry, airlines, hotels, restaurants, you think of that and you think of how COVID-19 has impacted them, of those not being places or activities people want to do. It's huge, and it's been huge contributor to our national unemployment rate. Overall, travel industry unemployment is at 51%. And the impact has been across the spectrum. It's been small businesses, someone operating a small cafe in a city, to like Delta Airlines or Carnival Cruise Lines. It has been definitely widespread. And one thing this pandemic has not been is discriminatory. It's like I said, it affects all of us from day-to-day life, from businesses, and so forth. So what's it going to take to rebuild the tourism economy? And really a big factor is going to be what we're calling consumer sentiment. How do people feel about taking a trip somewhere? That's going to be key right there. People have to be comfortable with the method of travel, and they have to be comfortable knowing that the destination they're going to is a safe one for them to go. And there's a company called Destinations Analytics that does these amazing weekly reports kind of tracking that consumer sentiment. And we're seeing that consumer level is improving over time. People are definitely getting more comfortable with the idea of taking a trip somewhere, but it's definitely limited in terms of how they want to take that trip and where they want to take that trip. So what we hear is, looking, within the lower 48, people are comfortable. They want to do a road trip. They want to travel somewhere, again, in an RV with their family, or traveling in bubbles is the term. People that they have been with for the last couple of months that they know are safe and so forth, and traveling with that. So that desire that they want to travel but stay close to home doesn't do us much good here in Alaska, which is really a long-haul destination for many people. The consumer sentiment has to do with that methodology of travel. How comfortable are people getting on an airline? How comfortable are people getting on a cruise ship? So a lot of different factors there that are going to drive how the tourism industry rebounds. What is positive for Alaska, though, is, okay, we do have this issue of being not close to places, but the type of activities that people want to enjoy. One of the big ones is they want to go to national parks. They want to go somewhere to be away from other people. And Alaska, along those lines, is probably the ultimate social distancing destination. So there are some factors that work to our benefit. And another one that here out there is someone will be comfortable traveling when there is a vaccine in place. And that's one that rises to the top of the list on a regular basis. So this graph here, this again put out by Destinations Analysts, just shows some of the different components of a trip and how unsafe American travelers feel right now based on a percentage in terms of traveling on board an airplane, traveling by public transport, staying in a hotel. Again, this is within this last week, this latest data, and while the numbers are not that good, I mean, traveling on board the airplane, almost 56% of American travelers said they'd feel unsafe getting on an airplane. The numbers are going in an upward, in a positive direction. So here, let's bring it back to Fairbanks now. So how have local tourism business responded to the pandemic? And definitely, probably top of the list when the realization came that this was not going away anytime soon was securing some extra funding. So the federal government has responded in a variety of ways, from the CARES Act to the Payroll Protection Program that our businesses, especially small businesses, have really relied upon so they can stay afloat during this time frame. A lot of our summer businesses have postponed their summer startup dates. So usually we start off our summer season, and actually we refer to it as our midnight sun season here in Fairbanks, usually starts off in early May. We have some summer businesses that aren't planning to open until July, and some that haven't opened at all. Some are opening with limited hours, limited days. And probably key to opening, of course, is putting into place guidelines and procedures to create a safe environment. So talking about that consumer sentiment, really also top on the list there is people who are traveling somewhere. They want to know that they're going to be safe in that destination. They're going to want to know they're going to be safe taking this specific tour. So all our tour companies, from hotels to motor coach tours, have really had to completely change their way of thinking and way of business to implement these COVID-19 safety measures, with everything from how do you do appropriate social distancing on a motor coach or on a small a Cessna airplane that's used for flight scene tours, or a charter boat out of Valdez. Hotels changing with the plexiglass. Everywhere you go now, there's plexiglass to make that separation between the client and the employee. So it's taken it's taken a lot of work. It's ongoing, and there's no playbook on it. I mean, we did not, as we looked ahead to our tourism year for 2020 in Fairbanks, responding to a pandemic was not on our list. So a lot of it we're trying to figure out, and relying on the scientific guidelines from the Center for Disease Control, or the experts here that we're so fortunate to have within the state of Alaska, Dr. Ann Zink and others. So really relying on those health measures to find that balance, again, between being open for business and maintaining the safety of the employees as well as the visitor. The impact here to Explore Fairbanks, remember I said in the beginning that 80% of our revenue comes from hotel motel bed tax. That's a great source of revenue when our marketing efforts are putting lots of what we call heads in beds of people staying in hotels and bed and breakfasts. But when you have hotels that their occupancy rate is declining to 20% or so forth, that's not so good. So we had to reduce our budget by about $1.5 million for the remainder of 2020. And so, like other businesses, we have had to let employees go, and we've had to make significant cuts to our marketing efforts. Some of them were made for us. So, like I said, usually looking ahead to the rest of this year, I had sales missions planned, I had trade shows planned that the tourism team was going to be going to. Those no longer exist. So some cuts were made for us, and some we had to figure out on our own. And it's definitely led to a complete readjustment of our marketing strategies. So it would not be a wise idea for right now. Our message would be, come to Fairbanks right now, come to Alaska right now, because of that consumer sentiment, because of the other concerns. So really the message is, and almost every other destination is doing this right now, is we're here when you're ready. And so making sure people, whether it be a potential independent visitor, a tour company, make sure they're still getting that knowledge and education of what Fairbanks has to offer as a destination. So when that time comes, when visitors are ready to come to a long-haul destination, they've got the information at hand to make good travel choices. And then a lot of focus on client outreach and partner support. Again, we have 400 plus partners. The impact of COVID-19 on them has been devastating. So to see how we can support them through these troubling times. So I mentioned we've changed our marketing strategies. I would look at where what's the best likelihood for visitors in Fairbanks for summer of 2020? And the answer is right here in Fairbanks. So we launched a new campaign. It's called Explore Local, and it's encouraging residents of the Fairbanks North Star Borough to enjoy some of the local attractions and activities that are typically enjoyed by visitors from outside. Everything from taking a walk through the woods with the herd of reindeer to gold panning to going out to hot springs to going on a fishing trip. A lot of times, and this is true for anywhere, a lot of people, when you live somewhere, you oftentimes don't pay much attention to the types of things that are available that draws in people from around the world. So the idea of this Explore Local campaign is to encourage our Fairbanks residents, and looking beyond, to extend to in-state. So looking across with our destination partners across the state of Alaska. We also know that besides getting locals within our own community to enjoy local tours and attractions and help keep those tours and attractions open for business. So it's about enjoying your community and supporting local businesses. But we do know that we will see visitation from in-state. So there's people down in South Central Alaska, Anchorage, Kenai Peninsula, who could be taking road trips up to Fairbanks and to Denali National Park, which we kind of oversee as part of our marketing destination. And similarly, South Central Alaska marketing here. So we're really relying at this time for that local experience, whether those locals are here in Fairbanks or across the state of Alaska. So I'll show you, as part of this robust marketing mix, we've done some short videos with some of our local tour companies talking about the great things to enjoy here in Fairbanks. So I will show those videos now.
Every town needs a strong downtown. And being known as the Golden Heart City, I believe downtown Fairbanks is the lifeblood of our community. We have historic buildings dating back to the gold rush days, a vibrant contemporary art scene, coffee shops, restaurants, and new breweries popping over the last few years. I believe if you haven't been downtown in a while, you're missing something. So get out and explore local.
Fairbanks has some amazing parks and outdoor facilities for everybody to enjoy year-round, whether it's Tanana Lakes Recreation Area with boating and trails and fishing, or Chena Lake out in North Pole with all the same amenities and campgrounds, all the other recreation areas, the hundreds of miles of trails, the 23 plus playgrounds, parks, and opportunities. The choice is yours. Just go out, rent a bike, grab a picnic lunch, and hang out at the park. So get out and explore local.
You may never have crossed the Arctic Circle, but Alaska's Arctic is a great place to get out and explore. Take a tour, take a flight, take a drive. Head north to the Dalton Highway where you can walk along the Yukon River, cross the Arctic Circle, explore the Brooks Mountain Range, and get out onto the Arctic Coastal Plain. So, get out and explore local.
Well, one of the best ways to explore Fairbanks at this time of the year is to get out, visit the museums, the cultural centers. We have 20 cultural centers and museums here in the area, from the UA Museum of the North, the Children's Museum downtown, Chena Hot Springs Ice Museums, and of course, the Fountainhead Antique Auto Museum. So get out and explore local.
Well, as you can see from those videos, we've got a lot of amazing things to experience here in Fairbanks and interior Alaska, and that's just the beginning of the campaign. We've got more that are on the horizon, more videos, and watch on our Facebook page and within the newspaper and so forth for some of the ways we're going to advertising the great things that locals here in Fairbanks can explore. So I would echo that, my colleagues, Isaiah, Kathy, Willie, and Michael, and encourage you to get out and explore local this summer. Enjoy the community that we are so fortunate to be living. That's a bucket list for so many people. We're right here. We have these things in our backyard, and it's positive because you're helping support small businesses. So looking ahead, what do we see when we shake the crystal ball? And it's hard. It's really challenging to make predictions as far as where things are going. During that initial outbreak, reflecting back to that February, March timeframe, in July and so forth, is that we thought that we would just, maybe there would be some hit in the summer, but by fall, we'd start seeing, a return. Because again, remember, year-round destination, while a lot of places are destinations in Alaska are closing up shop at the end of summer, we're just kind of getting going in some ways with our aurora season, which is starting. And there's still some potential there for looking ahead to fall and some of the lower 48 visitation. The international market is going to be the one that's going to take the longest to recover. You look at what's happening within some of our different international markets. They're just starting to open up for travel, but it's domestically within their countries. So travel within Europe, travel within China. Some of those different countries, when they talk about international travel, they're talking about going to another country that's close by, not necessarily the United States. So that international market will probably take the longest to recover. As far as the cruise industry, we're kind of 2020, it's not here this year. But looking into 2021, what's happened within the industry is, a lot of people have opted to just postpone their 2020 Alaskan cruise to 2021. So the cruise company is saying things at this time look good for that. And really, I was talking about this with a couple of others within the industry. Alaska is really would serve well as being a test for the return of the cruise industry, because it's close, especially within the U.S. It's close to within the U.S. It's a lot different taking a cruise to Alaska, staying within the United States, as opposed to maybe an international cruise of some type. So, the cruise companies now, a big focus is on how do we make the cruise ship environment a safe one for passengers to travel on, that they feel comfortable traveling on. And that's going to be a huge shift. If you've been on a cruise, everything on a cruise, those bigger cruises, is lots of people and buffets in close proximity within the pools and stuff. It's going to just completely cause a new model of traveling, via cruise. And so I think the Alaskan cruises could be in a good position to be a test for that. So, but again, the challenge, we've got to get over that consumer sentiment in terms of making a long haul flight and so forth. But again, Alaska, the ultimate social distancing location, right? So you look at people wanting to go to national parks and go to experience the great outdoors. That bodes well for us here within the Golden Heart City here in Fairbanks and the last frontier. So we remain hopeful looking ahead to 2021. As far as how long it will take to get back to where we were, in 2019 with the record numbers, there's just a lot of different factors. I would be unwise for me to offer up a better prediction than that. The situation that it is on one day is not necessarily the same as it is the other day. And again, it's that balance between having a great, robust, year-round visitor industry in a way that is safe. So, and again, also, looking ahead, just a final thought is people want to travel. People have, whether it be here in the U.S. or international, travel is such an important part of the way of life of so many people. And you talk to people, what do you miss the most? You say, oh, I miss traveling. I miss getting on a plane and going somewhere and experiencing a new destination. So people do have that wanderlust is out there. And Alaska is a dream destination. It's a dream destination for a retired couple in Minneapolis who've been saving for years to take an Alaskan cruise. It's a dream destination for a young couple in Beijing who want to come to Fairbanks and see the Northern Lights. It's a dream destination for young people in Germany who want to come and do backcountry trips in Denali. So that bodes well to us too. We're in Alaska. We are in a dream destination. So we look ahead with hope, and we look ahead with an eye towards safety as well. So I hope this was a informative presentation to you. Again, for more information, go to explorefairbanks.com. One of the things that we do have on our website and talking about the Explore Local is we keep a spreadsheet there and information on what is open here, what tour companies, et cetera, are operating this summer, and what are some of the safety guidelines they have in place. So that's a great resource there. Or as you can see on the screen, that's my email. feel free to email me as well. I'd be more than happy to take your questions. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you to UAF Summer Sessions for this opportunity. I encourage everyone once again to explore local, be safe, and be healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott, for sharing your talk this evening, and to KUAC for hosting the Discover Alaska Lecture Series. If you would like to see this lecture again or to let others know about it, you can find it on our website at uaf.edu/summer/events. Join us for next week's presentation, Fairbanks Then and Now, a time travel journey produced by Joan Skilbred and Mark Cosson. They'll share this unique presentation featuring photographs and videos showing changes through time using a photographic technique called rephotography. I'm Althea St. Martin, and thank you for joining us as we discover Alaska. Have a good evening and stay safe.